Are you still using ACP for your facade? Despite starting out as a metal roofing material, nowadays coated steel sheets are getting popular in the architectural scenes with different striking profiles such as the corrugated or the standing seam being available not just for industrial applications but for public commercial buildings or even straight to your home. But are coated steel sheets suitable for your facade project? First of all, let's introduce our coated steel sheets. Steel sheets are widely used in modern construction for roofing, walling, and cladding applications. The popularity of the steel sheets stems from their excellent strength to weight ratio, long service life, and ease of installation. The coated layers on the base steel sheets provides enhanced resistance to corrosion, weathering, and wear. The coated steel sheets are supplied by coils with common sheet thickness of 0.42 and 0.48 millimeters, then roll form to get their profiles, with corrugated and standing seam profiles being the most common ones. Being widely applied as the top industrial roofing material in the market, now coated steel sheets are being introduced and are getting more notable in the architectural facade cladding industry as part of the aesthetic choices. Let's move on to our contender, the aluminium composite panel. The aluminium composite panels, otherwise known as the ACP or the ACM in North America, is the second most common modern metal cladding. The thickness of the ACP ranges from 3 to 6 millimeters, whereas the aluminium skin thickness in the range from 0.12 to 0.5 millimeters, with 0.5 millimeters being the most common standard thickness for exterior application. While the inner core is typically made of polyethylene (PE) or a fire retardant (FR) material core, known for its lightweight, strength, and versatility. ACP is widely used in interior and exterior applications such as wall claddings, facades, signages, partitions, and ceilings. Now that we covered the basic properties of these two materials, let's compare and find out if the coated steel sheets are a suitable material to replace the ACP. Structural requirements are a very important factor when it comes to choosing your own metal facade when cost comes into the picture. If the exterior RC or brick wall is present and acting as a primary structure, both the coated steel sheets and the ACP would be functioning as a non-structural decorative cladding. Modulus of elasticity is a measurement of how metallic material deform under load and only require mounting members such as wall gird or subframe. The modulus of elasticity of corrugated steel sheets, which is normally made out of mild steel, has 550 GPa. Meanwhile, although the modulus of elasticity of the aluminium skin is 70 GPa, the core material, which is much more weaker, which is around 3.7 GPa. Therefore, ACP behaves more like a semi-rigid sandwich panel, not a solid metal sheet, so its stiffness is much lower than steel. Without a solid backing wall, such as on a bare steel structural framing, the corrugated steel sheets are much more advantageous as they could act as a walling or a structural skin by themselves, with just the wall gird mentioned earlier because they contribute to bracing and support. Whereas the non-corrugated steel sheets, such as the standing seam and the ACP, require solid backing or closed battens or subframes, usually 400 to 600 mm centers, and are typically fixed to a subframe or cassette systems using screws or adhesive. What designers should know is that coated steel sheets and the ACP comes in different sizings. For the coated steel sheets, before profiling, the coil width is normally at 1.2 meters, which is around 4 feet. Some manufacturers allow custom size orders if the project meets their minimum order requirements. Once foam rolled, the sheets would be around 850 millimeters depending on the manufacturer's profile. If you are stacking them, the effective covering area would be reduced to 762 millimeters. The length of these sheets are flexible depending on your facade covering area, so it could go very long without lapping to prevent water leakage issues. If the coverage area is less than 12 meters, the sheets would normally be profiled profile off-site. Otherwise, they could be profiled on-site with a mobile profiling machine. For the ACP, however, they normally come in panels of 4 feet by 8 feet. They also come in custom sizes if the project itself meets the minimum order requirements. Since the panels ordered are normally in a fixed size, it is important to pre-plan your cladding grid size to minimize wastages. Both coated steel sheets and the ACP have their advantages and disadvantages in both root shapes and organic geometry. Whether in their corrugated profile or the standing seam profile, the coated steel sheets are not as bending friendly as compared to the ACP in general because material-wise, aluminium is softer material as compared to steel. For the corrugated profile, the fluted shapes makes them hard to bend unless with cream curved profiles normally found in industrial roofing. Unlike the corrugated profiles, while it is possible to form organic shapes with the standing seam profiles, it is recommended by manufacturers to keep it at less than 300 mm wide to reduce the oil canning. However, it will be more noticeable on uneven surfaces such as on organic roof or facades. While the oil canning effect is solely on the aesthetics issue and doesn't affect its performance, some may see it as an eyesore. So, most manufacturers request their clients to sign a waiver before being allowed to purchase. Aluminum is a softer material as compared to steel, as steel is harder to bend. Because of this, and also the ACP is without corrugations, the bending radius of the ACP can go as much smaller as compared to the steel cladding, depending on the panel thickness and the core material, with a general guide being a minimum radius of R equals to 15 times T, where T is the panel's thickness. Furthermore, the ACP is unrivaled in 90-degree bend using the route and return method. Also, you won't find the oil canning effect on the ACP. Hence, the ACP is more commonly manufactured to do complex 3D facade patterns compared to the coated steel sheets. Both coated steel sheets and the ACP can be applied with different coatings such as polyester, silicone modified polyester, and PVDF to protect the base metal from weathering such as from the rain or from the sunlight's UV. In general, aluminium exhibits better corrosion resistance than steel due to its natural formations of a protective oxide layer. Hence, bare aluminium exhibits a low corrosion rate, typically less than 1 micron per year in atmospheric conditions, while steel is about 8 microns per year. To counter corrosions, the steel sheets are galvanized with an aluminium and zinc layer on both sides. This is why manufacturers would urge builders to seal cut edges and holes using the correct cold cutting tools and apply fasteners with rubber washers. Now that sustainability is a big focus in architecture and construction, let's look at sustainability between these two materials. Steel generally has a lower carbon footprint compared to aluminium. While these two materials could be recyclable, the coated steel sheets are reused from the recycled steel ecosystem and their offcuts are 100% recyclable. Meanwhile, for the ACP, only the aluminium surface layer can be recycled and it's not straightforward to do so as the outer layer and the inner polyethylene or the mineral fire retardant ore needs to be separated, so most end up in landfills. All in all, even with the attractive features such as being more economical, I still find the ACP playing an important role as a facade cladding material when it comes to being lightweight, better corrosion resistance, and flexible in forming shapes. So that's all from me. Feel free to let me know in the comments down below which one do you prefer, the coated steel sheets or the ACP, or if you have experience in using these materials. So thanks for watching and I will see you in the next video. Bye!